Man Battle Network, a franchise of an already existing franchise that impacted me more than any other Mega Man product ever could. It's honestly insane just how much this series got around. What started off as a Pokemon-inspired turn-based action RPG became one of Mega Man's most influential series under his belt, and would not only become the multi-entry series that we know and love, but go off to create such huge lineups of action figures, electronic toys, even got a beloved anime series that went on for many years, at least in Japan. We didn't get a lot of it over here. It was so nice to see Mega Man all over the gaming market again and be cherished by a new wave of fans. So much so that a sequel series was born from it, which we know now as Mega Man Star Force. If you ask anyone who grew up with the Battle Network series, you would learn how much it meant to them as a kid, or a teenager, or heck, even some adults that I know. And is it really hard to see why? Battle Network's fan base is loud and large in so many areas. Casual enjoyers, speedrunners, hell, even the esports scene is still alive and active, with tournaments happening weekly, with rollback netcode even implemented to support long-distance net battling. So many passionate fans across the world love this series, myself included. But for a long time, it seemed like the Battle Network series was kinda long forgotten by Capcom. Now I'm sure no one needs to be reminded of the dark times when it seemed that Mega Man was more of an afterthought than one of Capcom's mainline series. His games were either being outright cancelled, or he was treated as some sort of joke when looking at games like Street Fighter Cross Tekken. There are many reasons for all of these things taking place, but nonetheless, fans were getting worried. But then Mega Man started to receive a bit of a resurgence. The Legacy collections had started coming out, and Mega Man even got a new classic numbered title in its series. Now Classic Mega Man and Mega Man X are getting collections. It made perfect sense that other series would then follow suit. They had already had them before, and it seemed like the most logical steps was to bring new fans back into the franchise with them. But then the Zero Legacy collection kind of came out of nowhere, and that's when you can hear the fans begin to pray if Zero was being remastered. Perhaps there was a chance, although slight, there was still a chance that their favorite series could have another spot in the light. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Battle Network is finally not dead now that the Legacy collection is finally out for all our home consoles and PC, and I, for one, could not be any happier. I think I mentioned this in my very first Battle Network video, but Battle Network was basically kind of my childhood. I remember waking up really early in the morning to catch the NT Warrior anime at like WB Kids, like super early in the mornings here in Canada. Not to mention playing all the GBA games to oblivion. I almost owned every single one of them, and I would just play them ad nauseum. Yeah, it was basically my childhood. I've given credit a lot to Mega Man 8 and Mega Man X2 for my love of Mega Man to finally flourish and become what it is today, and a little bit of Legends and Legends 2 as well. But Battle Network is definitely where my love for Mega Man is fully cemented in my body. And now that the Legacy Collection is out, I get to play through the whole series again, and I for one am very excited. So much so that today, on the day the game releases, hopefully, I wanted to go back and revisit what I have been calling my favorite entry in the franchise for basically 2 decades almost. Holy shit, time flies. That's right, today we're going to be looking at Battle Network 2, which I played on my handy-dandy Wii U over there, before the shops closed down. May you rest in peace. It's actually one of the best things about the Legacy Collection coming out is that now people will have a way to play these games again, and for one, I could not think of any better timing, like holy shit. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Battle Network 2 today to celebrate the franchise that I love so much. And I'm honestly curious, will I still think it's my favorite after all these years, or will this old man brain finally catch up with me and realize that 4 is the actual superior game? I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's jump into Battle Network 2. No, wait, jack in. Let's jack in to Mega Man Battle Network 2. So probably to no one's surprise, Battle Network 2's story works a lot like Battle Network 1's, where the beginning is as normal of an RPG you can get, and then the last 3/4 of the game happens and everything just goes batshit crazy. And let me tell you, you'll be excited for that part because holy moly, I have a lot to say about it. And where do our intrepid heroes start their journey? Why, by being late to class, of course. Say hi, intrepid heroes.
Say hi, intrepid heroes.
Hi, intrepid heroes!
I love it.
Summer break is right around the corner, and Land and his friends are getting ready to do what all kids love to do during summer break: work on their summer homework, or become national heroes by stopping a giant terrorist organization. It's one or the other. But after becoming official net battlers by getting their own licenses, trouble starts a-brewing, as Yai's house becomes engulfed in toxic gases. It's up to Land and Mega Man to clear the house and save their friend. By jacking into the ventilation system, Airman shows up and claims that he's the cause of all this, claiming that the plan was to threaten the child's life for ransom money. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be dealing with for a little bit. Strap in. We beat him, and we get the whole bad guy defeated spiel. You know the one where he goes, "I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't those meddling kids." And then his organization's boss decides to blow him up in a train station bombing because he failed his mission. Okay, wait, what? Okay, yeah, so basically the first half of the game's plot is where an evil group of people start to really do evil things, but while this time around I think I enjoy the enemy's navies a lot more than the first game, I think the people controlling them are a bit weaker. Not that the first game had well-written villains, mind you, but a lot of the net ops that you'll meet during Battle Network 2's story are either really bland or they just don't get enough time to shine. Or at least, not a lot of the starter ones do. A lot of them are equivalent to Saturday morning cartoon villains, and while I think that can be fun, it does get a little old real quick. But honestly, I think at this point it's a little bit nitpicky. Like, you're playing the game because you want to fight Quickman. You don't really care about the guy controlling him. Like I said, a lot of them serve their purpose, and I think some of the later bad guys you go up against actually really do have some interesting personalities to them. And there is a fun to end point to a part of a story where Land and Mega Man are just out and about doing their own things, which I think is a major plus added to the sequel. Areas feel a lot more involved in the game's story. You'll be going in and out of areas constantly, and I think it helps build a sense of familiarity with the player. But as you progress the story, you start to learn more and more about what's going on behind closed doors, and Land becomes more and more involved with solving the mysteries that only now begin to grow bigger and bigger. Exploring deeper parts of the net is the only way we'll get to the bottom of this story and learn just what the two heroes are going to be going up against. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not a whole lot to the beginning of Mega Man Battle Network 2. It's just a lot of Saturday morning woohoo bullshit, fight the bad guy and move on to the next one. It's a lot like Battle Network 1, honestly. I got nothing. I don't know, fucking Quickman's cool. That's what Cutman shows up. Cutman's great. I love Cutman. I'm glad he's here. Wahoo! Okay, so I have to admit, when it comes from the jump to the first game to the second, there isn't a whole lot to talk about presentation-wise. At least not from a graphical standpoint, because Battle Network 2 uses a lot of the same sprites and models from the previous game, but this time with a little bit more of a built-up cast and brand new memorable members that you'll have to be net battling your way through. And man, do I love some of these new characters that end up becoming a mainstay for the series. The most renowned, of course, being Mr. Famous. He's obviously one of the best ones out there, but I also love characters like Rabita, a quirky little news anchor who also rocks with Toadman as her net Navi, and that's pretty cool, and she gives you one heck of a fight too. It's small touches like giving Navis more dialogue as you progress through the game, or even stronger versions of the net Navi you come across. It really helps give a sense of progression, and I think it's a neat touch. Not a lot of games do that, like, especially back in the day. The world as well has opened up a fair bit since our last visit through the worlds of Den City. There are more areas to walk around in, both interior and exterior as well. There's a lot more for Land to do in the outside world. More story beats have Land do a lot more than just run around from point A to point B in order to help Mega Man out. Although don't worry, you still do a lot of that. But now there's actual people and quest givers to go and talk to help advance the story. And of course, perhaps the most impressive location that had a huge overhaul is the net itself. I love the design of the internet in Battle Network 2. While I'm not one to shy away from the fact that some of these areas might look a bit samey, and yeah, okay, maybe some areas are just a little bit of color swaps of the others, but now we're inside like bombs and shit. Woo! Okay, so yeah, the internet areas do look virtually the same until you head into different sections of the game, but the best looking areas in my opinion are the boss dungeons that you'll have to explore throughout the game. Not to mention, every dungeon you explore will always have some kind of gimmick specific to the Navi you'll be fighting. For instance, Nightman's dungeon takes place entirely in a graveyard location, and you'll have to fight and run away from a ton of ghost enemies and thieves and zombies. It's really cool. And Magnaman's dungeon takes place on a plane, and the dungeon does this really cool thing. It's called It Makes My Head Fucking Explode. But all of these bosses, once again, have their own theme stages, and it's something that I'm glad the series kind of holds on to for the rest of the franchise. Not to mention, after you defeat a story boss, their ghost data will start showing up in certain locations across the net. The first time you fight the ghost data, you'll have to go to a specific spot and trigger the fight there, but once you defeat them, their version 3 of the form will just be out in the open. It's open game. You'll have the fear of them just showing up as a random battle, and let me tell you, sometimes that's not fun. Alright, so let's talk Mega Man. He can pretty much do what he did in the last game. You can walk around, you can talk to Navis, you can explore the depths of the internet, and while doing so, you'll have a chance to hit a random encounter. Yes, that's right, the good old grid-based battle systems are back, and they are kinda the same as ever, to be honest. So yeah, you can move across your 9 tiles and shoot your little buster gun and press the B button to hit whatever viruses stand in your way, but of course you need to talk about the chip system, aka the thing that this game was most known for the longest time. Battle chips will be your main source of damage in this game, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some only hit the panel in front of you, but those are usually the more damaging types, as it's up close and personal, while there are big AoE chips that'll do a lot of damage, and really there's nothing stopping you from using them on your opponents. Like, yeah, sure, Time Bomb could get shot, but then I'm just not going to stand there and I won't have to worry about it. But of course, being the second entry in the series, the game had to do something different to make sure it was separated from the game that came before. I guess you could say it had to change its style. Fuck you, that was funny. So yeah, style change is a new mechanic added to Battle Network 2, and in my playthrough, I got what's known as the Electric Gut style, an electric-based Mega Man which is all about power and almost nothing else. Its charge shot becomes a zap ring, and it's able to stun the enemies for a second or two. And if you build Mega Man up in power, you can always do like 10 damage per buster shot, which is honestly great. It fits my style perfectly. However, this does come with some downsides, like all styles do. For instance, the electric style is 2 times weaker to wood-based chips and viruses, which I gotta say, giving me this form in the dungeon where those are the 2 things I'll be running into was a bit of a kick in the nards there, Capcom. But the style change is a very cool addition that gives a bit more life to the battle system that was brought to life from the first game, which is what a proper sequel should do in my opinion. So yeah, Battle Network 2 basically does everything the first game does, but it does it a bit better. Not by a lot. It's cool, it's rad, and it's got some fun as hell boss fights and some other annoying ass enemies. You love to see it. But overall, yeah, I think it's a pretty good time. It's much more improved than the first game and a lot more fun in my opinion. It's a good time. You love to see it. So I had mentioned in the beginning of the video that Battle Network 2 is my favorite in the franchise, and if I didn't, apologies, it is my favorite in the franchise. But by this point, I'm still thinking it is, but I'd be lying if I said that the final sections of Battle Network 2 aren't swaying my opinions ever so slightly. Okay, so fast forwarding a little bit, Lan, for some godforsaken reason, gets invited to a Net Battlers meeting to discuss the information of the organization that has been discovered about the enemy group that we have been facing off against. This group goes by the name of Gospel, and you are never going to guess, but they are planning to commit internet crimes to take over the world. Please, please hold your shock and horror. Or like destroy it at this point. I don't know. I gotta be real. The motivations of the leader of Gospel are kind of all over the place. During the meeting, the Net Battlers become under attack and are picked off one by one. The culprit turns out to be the Princess of Creamland, and she is an undercover agent for Gospel. And it's here where you start to see the way Gospel has founded its members. Using revenge or anger as a tool, they gather members to attack countries in order to bring the chaos against the world ever so closer to each other. After surviving both that and a potential plane hijacking, lands back home, and the finale begins to start. And it's here where Matt started to truly have an existential crisis on how the fuck he beat this game as a young child. Hi there, Editing Matt here. So I originally had a whole script part to this, and then I just kind of decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna record myself in front of a green screen and talk about this shit, because Look, I call Battle Network 2 my favorite in the franchise, but this part of the game is so fucking asinine that I just needed to get on camera and complain about it. So if you're free for the next 2.5 minutes, strap in. Okay, so here's the plot, right? Lan and Mega Man were on a whole thing, right? Where we had to go to a foreign country, basically stop a terrorist attack, and then we had to stop a plane hijack, despite the fact that we are fucking 11. And on the way back, shit just kept getting worse, and then we finally get home, we finally rest, everything goes great, we wake up the next morning, and whoops, the net is covered in ice for some reason because earthquakes are happening all across the world. Mega Man can break the gray ones, or I guess they're white, but he can't break anything else. Well, it turns out you actually needed a certain program to break the red ice, which you're gonna need in order to save roll. That'll be important. So how do you get this thing? Well, you actually have to go to a certain area on the net, rescue a certain Navi to get a red program, bring that to your dad, he'll make something that you can break the red ice crystals with. Very cool. When you save roll, you find out that there are more people trapped, and you have to save this one prog Navi. Trust me, you're gonna need it for later. And then after you do that, you basically go back, find out shit is still whack, so now you're going to need to figure out how to break the yellow ice. But Matt, how do you break the yellow ice? Well, it's very simple. You see, you actually need a certain thing that I think it's like the heat data chip or some shit that you need, but no one knew where it was except for one guy, this dude named the Doc. How do you find the Doc? Good fucking question. You actually need a passcode to post on a message board in the undernet in order to find the guy. How do you get the passcode? Boy howdy, let me fucking tell you. I don't remember the actual steps, but I just know at some point you need to talk to a Navi, or you put a message on the message board. A Navi says he knows the guy who knows the password. You go to that place, he said, yeah, this purple Navi knows the password. So then you go there, you talk to this green Navi that knows the purple Navi that has the password. When you ask him where he is, you finally find the purple Navi, but if you didn't have a zap ring too with the letter B on it, you ain't getting the password, because that's what he wants in order to tell you the password. You give him the stupid Navi chip, and he goes, okay, here's the thing that you need. The code is www. Okay, so now that we have the code, we finally go back to Undernet, which is a fucking trek and a half. You get back to Undernet, you post the code, Doc shows up, and he's like, yeah, I know how to make that thing, but you're gonna need a certain program. How do you get that program? Well, it's simple. Remember that prog Navi we saved before? Yeah, he was fucking plot relevant. Not only do you have to save him, and if he didn't do it, you have to run all the way back, but the place that we actually get the heat data chip that we need to make the fucking thing is all the way back in the campsite that you have to jack in to this barbecue machine in order to even find. And if you talk to the Navi before that, he just says that his partner who had the thing dipped, and that was the guy that you had to save. Oh, but it gets fucking worse, because not only do you need to do all of that shit with all of that backtracking, once you finally get the yellow crystal thing and you break the way into the further undernet thing, because you're trying to find one fucking Navi, by the way, you finally find the guy, and he's like, oh, I know how to break these blue ice things, but I'm gonna need certain items. These certain items are the blue Brug frags, or whatever the fuck they were called. I lost track at some point. And it gets worse, because not only do you need to do a whole bunch of shit to get the first blue frag, but in order to get the second one, you have to go, and I'm not shitting you here, you have to go all the way back to Undernet 2, or 3, whatever one it was. You're gonna see a Navi walking below you. You then have to find the secret entrance to the Undernet, which is found in a different area, which you would need an entirely different thing for, to only get there to find out it's the second part. And then you're probably wondering, okay, where's the third key that I need? Oh, I know. You need to find Gospel's fucking headquarters. Gospel's the final, like, the main enemy of the game. That's what they're called. You have to find their fucking base in the net. And it turns out that Freeze Man, yes, Freeze Man is the third bug frag, and after you beat him, all the ice disappears, making all that backtracking shit that I spent like 2 hours on fucking pointless. Just thinking about it makes me mad, and like describing it this way is probably not awful, but trust me, on Game Boy Advance, this shit was fucking pointless. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Let's just talk about the ending of the game. Sorry, that was a lot longer than 2 minutes, I know, but I needed to get it off my chest. So anyways, gospel starts becoming a real problem, and while this should be handled by the proper authorities, you know, special agents, government officials, fucking send NASA at this point, it is instead handled by a really pushy 4th grader because he told his dad that he could, and he really wanted to do it for real, no cap. I genuinely wish I was being funny, but like, honestly, that's what it kind of boils down to, which, like, not to dock Lance's effort, but my guy, we are about to walk into a place that is basically an on-set location for some sci-fi hybrid fantasy bullshit movie. I don't think this should be a you thing. But as the stubborn preteen moves his way on up, we play through a pretty interestingly designed dungeon, I gotta say, with some banger music that keeps us company while we're doing refights of navis that are trying to start our journey. A true Mega Man adventure, let me tell you. Lan and Mega Man wake their way to the leader of Gospel and plan on stopping his evil plans, which I guess I kind of need to talk about. Alright, so Gospel's evil plans are something, they're gonna bring forth something called the Super Navi in attempts to take over the world, or something like that. Basically, they looked at Wily from the first game and said, can I check your homework real quick? And that is the reason why this 90s looking anime villain wants the world to burn. But we'll actually get to that in just a second. It's a lot dumber than you probably think it is. First, we have a final dungeon to go through, and by dungeon, I mean glorified hallway. You get some final cutscenes with your friends before you know it, you're fighting the Super Navi base. Who the fuck saw that one coming? I know. So anyways, yeah, base is kind of an easy fight, and after you defeat him, the system goes into maximum overdrive mode, and base succumbs to his dark energy or whatever, and becomes the Super Navi beast Gospel. And oh my god, I remember loving this fight as a kid, and honestly, I still think it holds up. Using a variety of moves which have different elements to them is incredibly fun to play around with, in my opinion. And as long as you have the funny chips at your side, I think you'll actually be kind of fine. It's a big dodge and weave boxing match between the two of you. It's honestly really cool. Like, I love this fight a lot. During the scuffle, you'll find out that the leader of Gospel is actually just some kid, and if you're observant enough, you will know that this was hinted way back in Neotopia. He said nothing, he was just there on the plane. I don't know, I mean, cool, I guess? Whatever. Anyways, you have your final battle, you read through the kid's journal, and basically his life was just kind of miserable. His parents died in a plane crash, and his life was pretty much surrounded by like people who just hated him, distrusting everyone and becoming very lonely in the process. He even got his parents' money and it didn't make him happy. Maybe all he needed in life was a friend. Oh, for fuck, Lan, I was kidding. No, please, you can't solve it with friendship, Lan. Anyways, yeah, we arrest the kid. Lan says he's gonna be his friend when he gets out of prison. We have our final camping trip, and all's well that ends well until Battle Network 3. What a game. Alright, look, I may rag on Battle Network 2 story a little, and I think the whole ice bullshit is a lot, but I think that where it has its time to shine, it really does shine. I like this sequel a lot, and I think it does a lot for the Battle Network franchise, and while the first game was the building blocks, I think Battle Network 2 is the blueprint for the series. Whether it be Mega Man being able to change forms, or certain program advances becoming a series staple, a cast of colorful allies to help you on your journey, even down to the net having its own unique areas, it all stems from this game, and I think that's why I love it so much. It's got some bullshit parts, sure, but I think they don't overstay their welcome. Like I said, except the ice shit. I'm never gonna forgive that. But overall, this one still stands out as my favorite in the franchise, which I know is a lot to say, but I think nostalgia hits me pretty hard. But now that the collection is out, I'm actually gonna go through the whole series again to see if that still stands true. But in my heart of hearts, I'll always call this one of my favorite games of all time. And for those of you who have already gotten the collection and have been having a blast playing them, I'm very happy we all get to play them again as well. And to those first timers, enjoy your playthroughs of the game. I know you'll love them. Except for Battle Network 1, that's okay. You can hate that one, it is legally obligated.